Hi everyone, it's Paula from Paula Quilting. Welcome back to my channel. Today another tutorial to use up your batting scraps and some string scraps, some random fabrics you maybe don't like so much but you don't want to throw them away, so this is going to be great tutorial to use them up. I've created a playlist where I'm putting all the tutorials where you can use smaller pieces of your batting scraps, so I will put it in the description below, so be sure to check that one out. So today's tutorial is about how to make either coasters or placemats or catch all balls using batting scraps and all those strips as I mentioned. For after project comments and suggestions, stay till the end of this video. So before we start, a few tips. You want to have a nice thick needle, either a jeans one number 14 or even you may go bigger. Just what we will be doing at the very beginning is a testing. So if you're skipping stitches, go size up on your needle. You may also like to adjust the pressure on your foot, which is usually like a knob at the top of your machine where you can do that, but don't do it straight away, just test first. So a lot of those bows are usually made from, with the ropes, and I have been there and I have done that, but none of my machines where I've used the actual rope did like it. The rope was quite thick and it was going very hard through the machine. So I've decided that instead of using a rope, I will use my batting scrap. So this is the recent one I've made. Is literally just to, put some stuffs inside. If I've got something around the machine, I can use that bowl to just put it in one place so they just don't go around everywhere. If you wrap your fabric nicely and tight around that batting, it will be quite nice and sturdy. So it's not as sturdy as you would have from the rope, or it's not as thick as you would have from the rope, but it's still good enough to use for that purpose. So you just need to test between your machine and your setup whether it will like the rope, and if it does, then whatever I will be showing here now, you can use the rope as well. But if it doesn't, the option for you is to use your batting scraps. Now the batting scraps, how to cut them, again, do some testing. So this one I have cut to 1.5 inch, and my process was that I folded that 1.5 inch to half, and I stitch through again in the middle, and then once I've done that, I again put it into half and just zigzag all that strip. Now why I've done that, because the thread will add a little bit of stability to those scraps as well, but also if my scraps were less than 1.5 inch, what I did, I had two strips of 3/4, then I put them one on another. I straight stitch all along the length of it, then I've linked those together, and then again I will just fold it into half and zigzag, so it will add that like I said, strength and kind of stability when I'm going to be doing other stuff. But depending what type of batting you're using, you may need a 2 inches, or may you want to have a thicker and your machine is fine with it, go with 2.5 inches. Do a little bit of testing. That's why we will be starting with the coasters, because coaster is a small project, not a lot of scraps will go into it. If you don't like it, you need to bin it later, but it will give you an idea, one, what your machine like, and two, whether do you like the output of it. So this batting here I've got is 80-20 cotton polyester, so it's quite I would say common one. So as mentioned before, 1.5 inch strips, put them into half, straight stitch in the middle, put it in the half, and then added the zigzag to make it now into this rope. The strips I've got here are not my the most beautiful ones. Those ones I've picked up already when I was making my pouches and my doorstop. So what I've got here left is like really quite a lot of plain fabrics, but for my bows I really don't need anything extraordinary. If you're planning to give it as a gift, obviously you would like to add some nicer scraps to the project. However, test it on something, you will not be sorry if you will need to throw it away. Now the one of the steps I also did here is I've stitched my strips together, and that's because I had a lot of short pieces. If you have longer strips, you don't have to do it. I would say at least if you have, I don't know, 20 inches long or 10 inches long, it's fine to go as is. But if you have small ones like I do, you may like to stitch it together to that, like, you know, 20 inches lengths, because it's just going to be quicker and easier when you will be working with it on the rope. The other thing to mention is how you want your output look like. You can just wrap around with that raw edge, and that's one look you can achieve. It will be raw on the end. Or you may like to fold your strip, whether into half, depends on the strip width, or just a little bit at the top. So when you start coiling it around, your edge, the edge you will be looking at will be kind of, you know, that folded one, so you will have a nice clean finish there. So again, make some coasters, make one coaster with just a strip like that, make coaster with folded, see how it looks. How you want to finish may also depend what width of the strips you've got, because obviously if you've got something very narrow like this, or maybe even narrower, this is about an inch. If you have something even smaller and you want to use up, then obviously it's going to be difficult to keep it folded. So but you can still make a nice ball out of it. So you may like to keep your scraps separate, something very narrow to one project and something a little bit wider where you can fold to another project. Whether you're going you know, for that raw edge ending, or whether you're going for that folded ending, it's good to kind of start with folding your end of the strip with the fabric like this. It's just going to make a easier start. Just actually right side. So you fold that. You may like to use a little bit of glue to hold it in place. I won't, but it will help if you have some glue or maybe a pin to hold it. But then you want to coil a little bit around. Try to do it as tight as you can, but with that beginning it's not so kind of sensitive with it either yet, because we are going to put in quite a lot of stitching there. So I want to coil about, I don't know, let's see, 10-20 inches here before I start doing something else with it. Make sure before you start doing it that you've got quite a lot of thread on your bobbin, so you don't have to stop the work. It's always good to be prepared. You may like to use some colorful threads on this, depending on your fabrics. Again, we are going to be doing some testing on those coasters, so you can play with different things until you find what you really like. Okay, so I did about, I don't know, maybe 10-12 inches here. Put a pin in it so to stop uncoiling. And now we want to make a kind of that beginning. So it is soft. You know, with rope would be probably a little bit more difficult. This is quite soft because it's the batting. So I'm just making a snail basically. Just flatten it up. Well, you can again put a pin to hold it in place for you, or you could just hold it with hand, depend how you're feeling more comfortable with. Once you did that first kind of coil, the snail, the beginning snail, you want to go and you want to basically stitch through it a few times all around whichever direction, just to hold that beginning in place. And you don't have to use a zigzag here, you can just do straight stitch. So, and one more thing to remember, after you finish stitching all of those straight stitches to kind of keep your snail in place, where you want to end up is that the snail part of it, the bum of the snail, you want to have out of the machine, because as it grows, I mean with the coasters probably it's not going to be an issue even if you go other way around, but if you're going to start making bigger project like that bow or placemat, you want the coil or the bigger and bigger snail on this part of the machine rather than inside, because you only have so much space here, but all the space here to the left of your machine. I will now stitch with the straight stitches first, as mentioned, just in random directions. So for now I'm not yet worried which way my bum of the snail goes. Now I just want to add something here. You can see that foot here is quite down, so sometimes the machine will have a problem with pulling the fabric through. Two things you can do. You either push your foot up and add something behind it to make it more smoother, making on the same level, or if you have a foot with the spring on the back, that spring is exactly for that reason. So you push your foot down until you can push that spring on the back into place, and as you can see, it locked my foot on the straight level, and it's going to stay like this until that pressure comes off from the back. So just check your boxes, check your feet for your machine. Have you got a foot with a spring? Very good stuff. You might like to push it a little bit as well, just to help out at the beginning. So just turn around and go with different direction. Again, I will just make sure I use my spring on the foot. If not, I could just add something at the back there to keep it on the same level. Now, if you're finding very difficult to maneuver and push it around, that will be a good moment to have a look at your knob where you can adjust how much pressure goes on that foot. So you may like to go up with it just to loosen up the distance between the foot and the bottom of the machine. Okay, I'm going to do it last time, and where I want to finish is where that last lap of the string is coming in, just about there. And I will stop in the middle between one string and another. I will now put my foot down. I've got my bom of the snail to the left, and now I can change to a zigzag stitch. Again, as you're doing your coaster, adjust the width of the stitch, adjust the length of your zigzag. This is why we're doing that coaster first, to make sure we will find the best setup for what we want to achieve. So I will now, before I start obviously sewing, I need to kind of coil around that fabric. I'm trying to coil it as kind of I'll just take that ball here on my lap for now. Usually I've got it somewhere on the floor next to the chair. So I'm trying to coil it quite, tight, because that will add that strength. But then again, have a play and do it maybe less tight and see how it will look as well. It really depends what you will be using it for. For coasters and for placemats, you probably don't need to do it so tight. It still will look good. But for the balls where you will have a the sides of the balls there, and you want them to withstand some pressure if you put things in, then you would like to do it a little bit tighter. But again, it's the practice, so do it tight here, then you will know whether you can do it tight later as well. Now, there are different schools, and it's all preference. You want to coil all of that rope in one go ahead. You want to coil a little bit, sew a little bit, coil a little bit, sew a little bit, go ahead. It really is a preference, so you just do what fits your own kind of work. I like to coil about, I don't know, maybe 20 inches in one go, put a clip or pin at the end, and then sew. Now this strip is actually quite long, so it will take a while to finish. That's why like I've mentioned, when I was putting those smaller strips together, I was aiming for about 20 inches bead, because that's the length of the strip, which is quite easy to maneuver around that rope here. But then again, there's no point of cutting longer strips if you have some to use up. So you just need to go with the flow on those ones. At the beginning, go slowly, because obviously the round bit here is quite small, so you need to turn around very quickly to make sure you're catching up with that angle there. But as your project gets bigger, it's going to be the curve will be kind of smoother there. It will be easier as well. Okay, so you don't want to kind of sew into the very end because it's difficult to start from there if you don't have a space. Leave yourself, I don't know, 2-3 inches here, so you have a space to coil next bit, if that's the method you're going with, because obviously if you coil everything before you start stitching, then that's not a problem. When we get to the end of the strip, I will show you how to kind of link the strips together or how to hide one in another. And that is basically it as a process, and then you just, you know, stitch it until you get to the size you like, and then you can, we will finish as well. I will show you how to do that. So the zigzag I've got now is 4.5 in kind of width and 1.5 in distance, but you may like different looks, so feel free to experiment with that as well. So I'm at the end now. I will grab another strip because it's the linked one. I just need to make sure my seams are to the inside. So as I get to the end of this strip, I will just straighten up or make that edge nice and sharp. Those are, you know, scraps, so they have been mingled for many times, so the edges are not very nice anymore. And I will fold into half that next strip, and I will just put it inside of that one I kind of tied it up. So when I go around it, it will all kind of fit into another. Again, if you like, you can use some glue there or maybe a pin to hold it for you, but I think, you know, once you do it a few times, you probably find that it's easier just hold it with your fingers. But if you're struggling with it, just, you know, use the tools you've got to help you out. And here we go. Well, you know, even if you have some threads sticking up here, once you coil it and you stitch it, you won't see them. And then you can always, if something's sticking out, you can just snip it later as well. So don't worry about it so much, and don't overthink it either. I think sometimes we're hanging up on the details too much, and we kind of lose the pleasure of making something because we are looking for the errors. I will carry on like this until I reach the size I want, whether it's a placemat or it's a coaster, and then I will show you how I want to finish it. I've been measuring my snail as I was going along, and I want my coasters about 5 inches, and just about there. So now I need to think about how I want to finish off my coil. So I think I want to finish about here, so I will cut my rope where it's going to finish about where I want to, and then I'm just going to wrap around that leftover of the rope, and then I will keep wrapping now fabric around the fabric. And I want to add about maybe an inch of that empty fabric, because that will give me nice smooth kind of transition here. And I'm carrying on with the zigzag. And I will just cut that leftover fabric here, the one I don't want to carry on. Wrap it all around nicely and tight, and just put smooth around that edge of the snail. You want to make sure it touches nicely here, that end, it's nice and smooth there. So obviously you cannot put a finger under the foot. You can use a pin or something you've got, maybe a you know, small toothpick or something you're using, just to keep it close to there. I'm just going to take that thread from here. So I'm just using a pin to hold it closely, and slow down here just so you can catch it up nicely here. Now what I will do, I will make my zigzag bigger, wider, and I will go around on that other, on that outer edge here for two reasons. One to secure, obviously, to make it nice and strong, but also this is all that inside is nice and flat because it's got stitch from both sides, but here it doesn't. You only have a one side, so it will be bumpy there. Once I've gone around twice or even 3 times, sometimes depends how I feel on the day, it will all flatten it down nicely and make that coaster more even. I am coming back where I've pushed that fabric now for the ending, so I want to take a pin and make sure that when I go on the other outer edge here, that fabric stays nice and tight here. And I will, like I said, I will go around 1 or 2 more times and the coaster will be ready. So this is how that coaster look like. It's all nicely secure and it's very sturdy actually, because I've added that extra stitches around as well. But again, this is all preference. If you only like go around once. If you like that edge to be a little bit bumpier than everything else, don't do it at all. So it's really all a preference, and you're testing and you're playing with the project to see what solution works for you and which one you like the best. Here, when I came that last round and I came to that place where the closing is, I back stitch few times up and down on this edge, and then I finished here, just again making sure that nothing will kind of move or remove itself from there. So they are about, I made few already, so they are about, like I said, 5 inches round. So I've got 5. I need to make 1 more. Placemats, you're going to do exactly the same, you're just going bigger. The process I'm using is exactly the same. I just measure how big you want them, and I just go around a few times more to to get you to the size you like. So the next part of the process will be then to make a small basket. I will do a small basket to put those in it, and that makes a nice set to give it to somebody, or donate to a charity for them to sell. How I start exactly the same, and I won't probably have a basket about 6 inches, so they go nicely flat in the middle, and then we will add the walls. So I will finish 1 more coaster, and then I will make that first kind of 6 inches coil ready for the basket, and I will catch you there. When I've measured my coasters, they were in the widest spot 5.5 inches. So I've started this basket for them, and I just want to make sure that it's about 6.5 inch. So when I want to put the coasters inside, they they don't stick out or anything. And I'm just about, I think, where I am, getting close to that 7-inch mark. So that will be a good time now to start lifting the edge now. Now I've got the hanging piece of fabric here, so I'll just quickly wrap it around again. And so what I want to do, I'm carrying on with the same process, but I just want to lift my snail up. So as you can see now in this point, you just need to keep your coil up all the time until you reach, you know, the edge as high as you want. Well, now I need to kind of measure how tall my coasters are when stacked one on another, so that will be indication how tall I want to have that basket. So the edges will go a little bit, you know, as an open one. Rather than straight up. You cannot do it on the machine, at least I have not worked out how to do it on the machine, so it will be like, you know, opening up a basket, but that's fine. You know, that's the design I'm going for. There are a few things I would like to tell you about troubleshooting. So first of all, and I've lost few needles on that, do not leave your needle down when you are stopping for whatever reason. And you don't push that basket. If you need to change direction, make sure your needle is up. Every time you push it, or you know, that shifts a bit, because it's quite heavy and dense, it will bend your needle slightly. And once it's bent your needle, you will start losing the stitches. So that's one thing. Two, you want to have a nice thick needle, so obviously minimum 14. I even ordered now 16 just to see whether it will make you know, more difference, because you know, thicker needle less prone to bending, so hopefully that will help. But also a needle fitted for your machine. So funny thing, I broke one needle. I had another pack of different brand needles, 14 jeans. I've put it on, I couldn't sew. It was just skipping stitches all the time. I put new one, same thing. But when I found the brand I had before I broke the needle and put it in, no problem. So that's the thing with the machines. Machines like certain threads, and machines like certain needles. So once you find your, you know, combination, the right needle and right thread for your machine, you will be, you know, in the great position. But it may take a while, so just take it slowly. So I will carry on with my basket. I'll go round and round and round until I've got enough height here to put my coasters in, and that will be ready. And I will be ready to show you what the whole project looks like when it's done. So here are my finished coasters and the ball to put them in. The ball came out a little bit bigger than I thought it will be, but actually I can now put maybe under some tissues, you know, if you put it outside, maybe you want to use it in your garden or something like that, you can put some napkins, this on top, and it makes a nice set. I've managed to make one placemat because I've run out of the scraps, so after I base some more quilts, obviously I will have more scraps to use up, so I will make more. But if I was just thinking that if you're using it outside, you know, sometimes napkins like to fly away. If you take your coasters out, you can make one of those little bit smaller to cover your basket, and that way everything will stay nicely inside. So that's another idea how you can use those. And I'm using my catch-all ball to keep my yarn whilst I'm making it, so that's another idea how you can use. This is quite big ball, and I've got another one of those bigger ones in my porch in the entrance, and you know, when you're coming in, you drop your keys in other small bits and pieces, so you know, it's like a drop-off zone in the entrance. So that's another idea how you can use those. I'm pretty sure if you look around, you will find lots of beautiful baskets made out of ropes. You know, people got lots of ideas how to make them. And now my project wasn't kind of designed for that level, because they are really beautiful. I find some like, oh my god, how they have done it. This is beginner's basket, and also something you can use to use up your scraps, your batting scraps, not necessarily buying a rope. So this is how I'm taking it. Depending what type of fabrics you use, you know, you can achieve certain kind of designs here as well. So, you know, the scraps I have used were not the most beautiful ones. Those are the ones at the bottom of my scrap box. You know, when you picked up everything else you've liked, you've got certain things remaining at the bottom, so those are the scraps I've used here. But still, I can use it, I can gift it. You know, once you kind of put it all together, it doesn't look so bad. So I just need to wait a little bit longer to make some more of those placemat to make it very nice set, and you know, start either using it or gifting it or donate it to a charity for sale. Thank you for joining me today for this tutorial. I hope it gives you some ideas how to use your scraps. There's another tutorial in preparation how to use your batting scraps and fabric scraps. So if you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And check out the playlist I've created for the batting scraps as well. There are some projects there, how you can use up your various bits and pieces of the batting, not necessary for the quilts. Thank you for joining, thank you for watching, and see you next time.